Okay, I'll move it back. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. So we are coming up to Hanukkah, believe it or not. Gemara says that about Pesach, but nonetheless, we are less than 30 days before. Good time to start looking at some of the halachot of Hanukkah. So I want to look at a shaila tonight, which comes up regarding Hilchot Hanukkah. And, we find many times in halakha, Hilchot Hanukkah particularly, but in many different areas, changes that have happened over the years. And the question is how that changes the way that we express, the way that we fulfill these halachot. So in Hanukkah, we see a number of expressions of this. For example, the earliest one probably in the Gemara. We know that already the Gemara talks about originally, the decree was that the Hanukkah candles should be lit outside. Then there was a shata sakana, there was a time of danger in which it was impossible to light candles outside. And therefore the Gemara says, in such a circumstance, you light your candles inside. Right? Tremendous machloket amongst Poskei Zmanenu nowadays. The danger is past. Do we go back to the original takana of lighting outside or do we light inside? Again, different people have different practices. And that's one example. Right? Another example is in the fact that the way that our houses are laid out today are so different from the times of Chazal. You go through, the Gemara tells us where to light your candles, whether it's inside or outside. But there was no conception of these tremendous apartment blocks. Somebody who's living on the 10th floor, right? Where do they light the candles? The Gemara doesn't tell us because there wasn't such a reality. Do you light it inside? Do you light it outside in the stairway? Do you light it at the bottom of the building? Do you light? The Gemara says the highest you can have your candles is 20 amot. People live much higher than that, but where do we start counting from? From the floor of the level where you are, from the building outside. Maybe you can see. What if you can see the windows in the building across? So that's another expression. But another question, which comes up, the very essence and the meaning, the use of candles has changed a lot over the years. So we have this question when it comes to Shabbos candles as well. I'm not going to discuss whether you can light electric lights as your Hanukkah candles. Most poskim say you can't. But another interesting question which comes up as a result of that is the place of the shamash, which is the additional candle that we light. We can never make it simple. Whenever you ask, how many candles do you light on any night of Hanukkah? You light one, or you light 1 plus 1, you light 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. But we have the number of candles we light, and we have this extra candle, the shamash. As we'll see in a moment, the Gemara Shulchan Aruch tells us why we light the shamash and where it comes from. And there was room to say, maybe nowadays when we have electric lights and the candles are not serving the same purpose as they were serving once upon a time, maybe there's no need for it. And is there a need for it? Do we have to light it? And are there actually enough kaminas which come out of this? We'll see in a moment. So the question was asked, nowadays we have electric lights and everything. Do we still need the shamash that we light each night of Hanukkah? So in order to understand why it's a question, let's go back and let's understand where the shamash comes from and what its purpose is. So the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, there's no Masechet Chanukah, but the Gemara, the dinim of Chanukah are brought in the second parak, in Masechet Shabbat. The Gemara begins, there's a discussion of the different types of wicks and different types of oils which can be used for the Shabbat candles. And from there, the Gemara goes on to a discussion of which types of wicks and oils can be used for Hanukkah candles, and it goes on to the various different dinim. So one of the things the Gemara tells us is that there are certain types of oils and certain types of wicks which do not give a very bright light. They will flicker, and there's a concern that a person will come to try and draw the wick onto the candle to try and increase the light. On Shabbat, that would be a problem because there would be melechet mav'ir. A few weeks ago, we discussed the sugya of tilting the lamp on Shabbat. And therefore, these oils and these wicks would be forbidden for use on Shabbat. So then the Gemara asks, what about Hanukkah? Okay, on Shabbat of Hanukkah, there's always a Shabbat of Hanukkah, sometimes it's two. On the Shabbat of Hanukkah, to light, we can't use these wicks and these oils for the Shabbat candles. Could you use them for the Hanukkah candles? So Machloket Amarayim. Rav Huna and Rav Chisda say, just like it's forbidden for Shabbat, it's going to be forbidden for Hanukkah. On the other hand, Rabbi Zera says, in the name of Rav, says, no, it's mutar. Says, why is it forbidden on Shabbat? Because you might come and increase the light because you want to use the candles. But on Hanukkah, you can't use the candles. Afterwards, the Gemara gives another reason. that even if you fulfill the mitzvah of the Hanukkah candles, if the candles go out, you don't have to relight them. But there it says, because this on Shabbat, you're allowed to use the candles, and therefore we're worried you might come to increase the light in order so that you can that you can see by it. But on Hanukkah, you're not allowed to derive any sort of benefit from the candles. You can't read by them, you can't use them to count your money, is one example the Gemara gives, different things. And the principle is, and we say this every night, we say, we can't get any benefit, we can't use the candles, we can only get, we can only see them. So why is it that there's an issur of benefit, issur hana'ah of the Hanukkah candles? So Rashi says, it's because it's a heker. It should be recognizable that we see it, that it's only for the use of the mitzvah. We're not lighting candles because we need to light up our homes. Because here already nowadays, we don't light up candles to light up our homes. But in those days they did, and therefore don't use the candles for anything else. It's exclusively used for the mitzvah. Other Rishonim give an interesting answer, the Bala Ma'or brings in the Ran, that why are we lighting Hanukkah candles? We are commemorating the menorah in the Mikdash. And just like the menorah was Kodesh, and that could not be used for any personal use, you couldn't get benefit from that either. So too, the Chanukiah represents the menorah in the same way. You could not get benefit from there, you can't get benefit that way either. The Levush extends this. He says, just like the menorah was in the Heichal, so actually, most people couldn't see it. And therefore, it's clear and it's obvious that its purpose was not for its light, to get benefit from its light. So too, it's going to be for the Hanukkah candles. In any event, there is it's clear and it's brought down Shulchan Aruch. There's no question you cannot get benefit from those lights. So now that we say that it has to be clear that the candles are there for the sake of the mitzvah, you can't get benefit from them. This is where the minhag comes from. The halacha comes from that you light an additional light, which comes to be known later on as the shamash. And by having this light, then if you need to get benefit, you can use that light. You're not using the Hanukkah lights, and that's where that's where it comes from. It's very interesting is to track to see where this din first appears in the Gemara, because originally the Gemara is talking about the mitzvah to light the light. It doesn't say anything. It talks about how many. It doesn't talk about about this additional light. Where does it come in? So that is only when what I mentioned before, when the Gemara talks about the change in location of the Hanukkah candles. Okay, I'll read in the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch more or less quotes the Gemara here, and he says, "Now Chanukah menicha al petach hazamuch le'rshut ha'abim midbachutz." Right. So your Hanukkah candle, again, it always says Ner Chanukah because the Ikar Hadin, right? Just like one candle each night, you fulfill the mitzvah. Because nowadays we all do mahadran min mahadran. But so you light it outside, at the entranceway that is closest to the Reshut Rabim, and got to do with the way the houses were constructed in those days, whether it's outside your house or outside your courtyard, but whatever it is, you light it outside. That's what the Gemara says. And then it goes on, and he says, when it came to the Shata Sakana, these times of danger, when we did not have the ability to fulfill the mitzvah, lighting it outside, it's the language of the Gemara. You place it on your table, you place it inside, and it's enough. It's fascinating. Then, that's when the Gemara says that, the very next line is, and you need an extra light. You need an extra light that you can use, an extra candle, what we would call the shamash. So seemingly, so the simple explanation is that if the whole point of having this extra light, having this extra candles, that we're going to use it, or we're not going to come to be confused to think that these are just lights which people want to use. When the Chanukiah is outside, okay, if people need a light, people need a candle in their house, they don't light the candle outside. You're going to need to sit and read. You put the candle, you put the light in your living room, right? You don't put it outside your petach beitosamach reshut harabim. So it was obvious that it was there, that the candles were there for the sake of the mitzvah. There's no other reason why you would light the candle outside. When you bring it inside, wait a minute. Now that we've got it inside, now we have an additional complication. We've got the candles inside. People have candles inside. People have candles on their tables. Now that you've got it inside, you need an extra candle in order that you're not going to get confused, in order that people won't think that this. So this is where the shamash is born, essentially. The Meiri even goes so far to add something else. He says, we know that there are different possibilities where you could light where you could light the candles inside, right? There are those who light it in the window. For Pirsumei Nisa, there are those who put it next to the door by the entranceway. And then the Gemara said, if you can't do either of those, you just put it on the table. You put it in the middle of the living room. So the Meiri even says, he says, just that like if it was outside, it would be obvious and clear to all, this is for the mitzvah. If you have a candle inside, right, opposite your mezuzah, just by the entranceway, especially if you have it in a little box, but then it's clear to everybody that that's there for the sake of the mitzvah, not for anything else. So he says, really, Meikar Adin, you wouldn't need, when would you need the shamash? Not when it's outside, not even when it's inside at your doorway, only when it's on your table. And that's what the Shulchan Aruch says. It says Menichal and the Gemara, Menichal Shulchano v'dayo, put it on the table, and then you would have it, and that's when you would add the shamash. Before you get too excited, the Meiri goes on. He says, first of all, he says that's what I think. That's what the halacha should be. There doesn't seem to be a reason to have it when it's not there in the middle of the room. He says, nonetheless, he says, minhag avoteinu v'raboteinu b'yadeinu. That's his language. Avoteinu v'raboteinu. He says, we have the minhag, we have the custom. This is what our ancestors did. This is what our rabbis did. We have the practice already established. When you light the Chanukiah, you light it together with the shamash, and therefore that's what we should do. And therefore, even if it's in the doorway, it's away from the doorway, wherever it is, you have the you have the shamash. And again, the Rishonim explain the reason you need this extra candle is because if you're going to come to use to benefit from the light, you'll be benefiting from the candle, not from the Hanukkah candles. And there's no problem. Rashi says, she takes it a step further. The Halacha points out, says even if you don't intend to use it, you don't intend to benefit from the light, nonetheless, you need this extra shamash that needs to be there, and that needs to be as a heker. So that's when it's inside. So we see that it's only in the situation whereby it's possible, where the shamash is born, so to speak, where it's possible, where it's feasible that people would come to confuse the candles, the Hanukkah candles, for lights that you would need to benefit from. Nonetheless, Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah say once we have this, whether you're lighting your candles now inside, whether you're lighting them outside, this is the way you light it together with the shamash. And people may not know. People might see one person lights it outside, person lights it inside. There might be a difference. People will come to get confused, and therefore, nonetheless, the shamash should still be there. Question is whether in our days we could take this a step further, because we could say, right there, you have situations. Sometimes people light outside. Sometimes people light inside. For this individual, you might get confused. For that individual, you won't get confused. But when it's now not an individual case, but it's universal, nobody uses candles under normal circumstances. You think about war-torn countries and things like that, which are exceptional, which is quite unbelievable. But these things start to become relevant again. But under normal circumstances, everybody has electricity. You don't use an ordinary candle. Would we still say then that the shamash is required, or would you say? There's the next line in the Gemara, which I didn't read out, but the Gemara over there where it says you need an extra candle, it says unless you have a menorah. If you have a menorah, which is like a big flame, which is a big, which creates light and brings light in the room, that would be enough. And therefore you wouldn't need such a situation, you wouldn't need the shamash. Could you compare the situation nowadays of having the electric lights to the menorah? So Shlomo Zalman Auerbach writes that actually Meikar Adin nowadays, seemingly you would not need the shamash because all the purposes which it serves are not required. Then he says Meikar Adin. He says nonetheless you should still have it, and we should still. There are those who give Kabbalistic reasons for it. We already saw what the Meiri said. He adds as well that if you're going to have a power cut, and there are certain places in the world where they have power cuts as a matter of course, load shedding, where they cut off the electricity every few nights or whatever it is for a certain amount of hours. And if you know that that's going to happen, so then you would need it, Meikar Adin. But otherwise, he says, even though Meikar Adin, you wouldn't need it, we still have it, and we still light the shamash. There is enough kamina that comes out of all of this, which is the following. The Hanukkah candles need to be lit for approximately half an hour after night, or half an hour from the time The question is, if you have candles that are going for longer than the minimum required amount of time, the halacha which we began with, that you can't benefit from it, do we say that you can't benefit from the candles only in that minimum, that half an hour time, or if they're lighting for longer, would that apply as well? So that's a machloket. There are those who are mekar and there are those who are machmir. The question then becomes, if we want to, do we need to be concerned for the machmir opinion and therefore have the shamash that is lit longer than half an hour and as long as the other candles? And here's enough community. Here's where we can find a kula, but we could say that even though we still have to have the shamash, we would have it for the minimum amount. That if the other candles are lighting longer, it's okay. But if the shamash has gone out after half an hour, that would still suffice. And that's why some people have the minhag. You might be using oil for your different candles, but using a wax candle for the shamash, and that would still be that would still be acceptable. Rabbi Kenigsberg Mincha Maariv Shiur Dec.